Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone's doing good today. This is Monday morning, oh, probably about 9:30 thereabouts. My clock needs a battery in the shop here, so I'm guessing at the time I left the house and brought out the Boblov W1, which is what I'm using now. It gives me an overall good video. I had one of my viewers asked how the shed roof was doing and whether I had any more leaks or not. I emailed him back and told him there was no more leaks. I checked this after several good rains that we had, and it's a bone dry in here. There's no more leaks. However, the valley of the roof, the problem was in the middle of the valley. It had like I said on the video, an 8-foot long piece, about 3/4 of an inch wide and about a ½ inch deep, and that's the area it was leaking in. That's a vulnerable area. It's been an ongoing problem with this roof, that valley area. I don't know why. I can't seem to get the thing sealed up any length of time. So it makes it difficult because I have to keep this shelf up here, the second shelf from the top. You may be able to see the drawer that's sticking halfway out lengthwise instead of going in this way. It was, taking up a lot of room because I got a couple of drip trays inside to catch anything, and I really don't want to put everything back because it could leak again. I really need to go up there, and one of my viewers gets a little nervous when he sees me on the roof, and somebody's got to do it. There's no one else that can do this for me. I wouldn't ask Tommy. I don't want anybody to do something that, I should be doing myself. And I can't afford to hire anybody. It will cost thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to have a roof put on professionally. And it's an old shed. My main concern is this part of the shop part of the shed. There's no leaks on the main shed. It's just that when the main shed comes down like this and the shop roof comes down like this, it's in that valley area that is all my problem. So I just don't know why, but it is, and I've tarred it and tarred it and tarred it. I've used 5 gallons of tar when I first did it, when I was able to lift a 5-gallon bucket up onto the roof, which I can't do now anymore. My knees can just about get myself one step at a time on the ladder. And that's with me holding on. So it's very difficult, but like I say, it's got to be done. I did a major cleanup off camera in the shop here about a week ago, vacuuming totally. Took everything off the shelves after I sealed everything, so there's no openings at all, and I had mouse droppings all over in various places, there and over here and in back of the books, but nothing, no water coming in there. The water was coming in from that side, but there's mouse turds on everything. Over here, I didn't bother pulling the equipment out, so there could be a little bit in there, but I think this is something that was just starting, and they were getting in because I had it open between the rafters here. These rafters are on like 13, 14-inch centers. I purposely did that for strength instead of 16-inch centers. And I had the wood at the time. So I had to close all that in because it was open all the way, and I don't know why I didn't seal it originally. I think my thinking was at the time that I could peek in there and see if there was any water coming in from the other shed roof underneath the shingles. Apparently, I've never seen any, but in later years, it started leaking through. So that's probably why I left it open. But when I built this, I really should have sealed it up tight, and that would have eliminated any mice coming in here. So it's very important that I protect the stuff that's in here. It's my hobby, and I like doing it, but sadly to say, the radio that I'm working on here, the Motorola radio that I had part 1 and part 2 on, never did any more because I'm pretty well honest. To be honest with you, I'm down in the dumps. Somewhat depressed because I'm worried about my wife. I worry all the time. And you know, she's almost totally immobile, and that's all I think about. I just don't have I'm not in the mood to work on anything. I love my hobby. I like coming out here and doing things. However, I'm just not in the mood right now. And what I do is I watch YouTube videos. I come out here and I charge up some of my batteries on my older cameras and stuff. I have my $3 11.5-inch tablet Android 5 that I have the PDF files in for my schematics, and that works good. So I charged that and played around with that a little bit. But as far as doing any electronics and stuff, I just can't get into it right now. Yes, I've been working on the shed because basically I need to keep this thing from totally going to hell in the handbasket. So, and I'm pretty disgusted with the guy that's supposed to get together with me on cleaning out the shed of the items I want, but it's like all the other ones that I've dealt with. They just don't want to be bothered. They want everything delivered to you free of charge. And I got some items in there that I want to get rid of, like I got 2 table saws. I don't need one. One I had, a Craftsman 8-inch, that was, as I mentioned before, in the early 70s. I bought at Sears, and I got a dado set for it when I built my entertainment center back in the 90s. I don't do that kind of work anymore, but I want to keep the smaller, lower, smaller table saw, which is a 10-inch Delta that I got at a yard sale for $10 about 10 years ago or whatever it was. And I'm trying to downsize, but the problem is I'm not going to pull everything out of the shed, which would be about a day's work, get everything out in the yard, and then have the guy come over and say, well, he buys estate sales, and he'd probably give me $100 for everything in the shed, and I'm not going to do that. It's worth more than $100 for me to haul the stuff out of there. So what I wanted him to do is to come and get some of the items I don't need and give me a fair price. I don't expect eBay prices. With me, when I buy things on eBay and sell, I buy high and sell cheap. I mean, that's the way it's always been. When I sell a radio, I'm selling it for what I put into it. And that's it. What I bought it for and what I put into it. I don't make any profit on it, I never did. It's just the way it is. I'm not a businessman, because you ask too much money for something. I'm looking over there at the camera. The camera's over here. I have a bad habit of doing that, because I'm used to having the camera over there at times. But anyways, hello, you're over there. So every time I call this guy, he's out of town so you get a nice day. I have to work hour by hour because I got to take care of my wife. I go out in the morning because my wife sleeps very late. She don't sleep at night. And she's got a nurse and a home health aide coming at noontime today. So I have to be there too to help out, straighten out the recliner chair for her and whatever she needs. When she has to go to the bathroom, I have to be there to take care of her and stuff like that. So, I mean, I gotta do everything, because if I don't do it, she'll end up in a nursing home, and that's the biggest worry for all of us. I won't survive without her. I can't do anything. I get stressed out with complicated paperwork. She does all the banking. I can't do any of that. Online banking. Before I met her, I paid by money order, or I had a checking account myself. I'd write out checks. I could deal with that with no problem whatsoever. I'm from the old school. And I have more problems trying to get online to do banking. I can't do it. The only thing I can do is eBay. And I mentioned this before. I created several Amazon accounts to get something at the time. I don't buy anything now because my mind is I'm worrying about my wife. Okay? That's the number one. I haven't bought anything on eBay. I don't have the money anyways. A lot of people are buying everything every week, but not me. So the last time I bought anything on eBay was those tubes that I got, those 1-volt tubes. I got a good deal on those for this radio that I'm working on, but that's sitting off to the side right now. You know, when I got some resistors I got to change, you know, and I just can't get into the mood for it. I can't. Now, right now, it's early in the morning. My wife is sleeping, and the nurse is going to come about 11:30 this morning, between 11:30 and 12:30. It comes 3 times a week and dresses her wounds on her legs. And the home health aide will clean her up and stuff. It does that a couple times a week and stuff like that. She does all the banking. She does everything. I had her, I've been playing around with a tablet that I bought before Christmas. Android 13, I think. And it was a tablet PC, okay? The keyboard that came with it, because you need a keyboard on a tablet most of the time because you got a little dinky keyboard, but actually the letters are pretty big, you know. It would never pair up. I have more problems with that. It'll just say connecting and then it'll disappear and you don't see anything. So for the longest time, I didn't bother using it, you know. I use it as a tablet. It works okay, and I got it connected to the router and everything else, and I got music in it and stuff like that, and, you know, little things I can do. So that's Android 13. That's the latest one at the time that I could get. It was under $100, and it came with a mouse, which until the other day is the first time I've ever used it. A little dinky little square-looking thing, real cheesy, and you have to push hard on the left mouse button to get it to work. It's cheapy, you know, it takes 2 AAAs. So anyways, so I took the keyboard. I said, well, the keyboard is USB-C, okay? And I said, what the heck? This is the keyboard that came with it. It's got an aluminum back on it, very thin. This came with the tablet, okay? It will not pair up. I mean, I couldn't do anything with it, so I brought it to my wife. She's better at this stuff than I am, because mainly I have to do everything with a magnifying glass. I can't see anything without it, even with the reading glasses on. I still need a magnifying glass. And she couldn't get it to pair up either. It would just say connecting, connecting, and then nothing. So, okay. So, I said, the heck with this. This is good old Android 5. I have several tablets that I bought throughout the years. They're all Android 5. Android 5 is simpler. It's just like the computer systems. Windows 7 is more user-friendly than Windows 10, and forget about Windows 11. I've got a laptop, Windows 11. I very rarely use it because I don't like learning new stuff. So anyways, so I had a Motorola keyboard, wireless, that I bought at the dollar store several years ago that would not work on the Android 5 tablet here. It would not connect. I brought it into the house and tried it on my Android 13 tablet. I couldn't get it to connect. It said, type in a code, but it don't tell you what to use for a keyboard. So no keyboard popped up on the tablet so I can type it in, and I says, well, it don't make any sense to type it in on the wireless keyboard because it's not connected yet. But I was wrong. I brought it to my wife, and she bails me out on this stuff. She said, yeah, you type it in on the wireless keyboard and then hit enter. I said, when I was trying to do that, nothing showed up on the screen of the tablet. Jesus. Only me. I can't figure this stuff out. But she got it to work, thank goodness. So I took in the newer keyboard that came with the Android 13 tablet that I got in the house, and it connects right up. That's this one. Connects right up to the Android 5 tablet. Do I need a keyboard out here? No. Because the only thing I do out here is read PDF files for working on radio. That's what this tablet's for. So anyways, this is USB-C here to charge it. So if I need to charge it, I got to go in the house because I don't have a USB-C charging cord out here. It's with the tablet in the house. But no big deal. So I'm fighting around with little things like that. You know, I don't do very much. I'd like to get back into the radio stuff and everything. I hope I'm still recording. As far as I know, that Bob Love W1 that I'm using now is fully charged. The shop is pretty clean. I just got a bunch of papers here that came from the attic workshop when I cleaned it out. I don't know. I like looking back at the past. You know, my cousin Rose, who passed on several years back, says I live in the past. I'll tell you what. If I can go back in time, I would. I showed some of these things before. Lafayette Radio Corporation, 111 Jericho Turnpike, Syosset, Long Island, New York. August 10th, 1963. At the time, for a very short while back then, I did TV and radio repair, and I had business cards and stuff, but I wasn't as knowledgeable because that was before I took my Coin Electronics Radio and Television course, which I was just starting to do that. And So I did a few calls, but at the time I was not driving. So my dad had to take me local calls, and I didn't do much. I had a tax number for the state of Connecticut at the time. I was only making, I got $15-20 for the year. And just a couple of repairs here and there. But here is a Lafayette Radio receipt. I used to do everything by mail order, of course. There was no internet. Those were the good old days when you had analog television and you had rotary phones. My first battery-operated Lafayette reel-to-reel non-capstan drive was a rim drive tape recorder, model RK152. A 4-transistor push-button tape recorder, $15.99. 50-cent postage, $16.49. Hope if you can see that. Why do I save it? I don't know. But I've gone through some of this stuff before, probably in the shop, the attic workshop. Electronic Instrument Company Incorporated. 33-00 Northern Boulevard, Long Island, New York. Long Island 1, New York. Stillwell 6-8700. That's probably the telephone number. At the time, I lived on 34 Winthrop Street in New London, and this was the receipt here for a 90054 tube. I don't know what that must be a part number. Whatever it was $7.95. $1 shipping, it was $8.95. And it says parcel post charges, $1. I think it was one of my ICO testers, because back in '62, I think that's when I started building, getting ICO kits, like the ICO 322 VTVM, the ICO 324 signal generator and stuff like that. This goes back to the 50s. This was a letter from my cousin Wayne, who passed on from stomach cancer years ago. Wayne was about a year younger than me, and at the time he wrote this, and I can't even read his handwriting, I think he was about 8 years old, 9 years old, somewhere in that area. So I was probably about 10 years old. And this is his drawing, and he used to write me a letter once a week, because they lived in West Haven, and I lived in Waterford, I think, at the time. So I'm a person that likes the past because it's a more pleasurable time to live in, and brings up my spirits. Gray Electronic Supplies. 1004 Bank Street, New London, Connecticut. Gibson 32019 was the phone. That's what they did. They have like GI 3 whatever in the number. So I used to walk to these places because I lived in New London. So walk a couple miles to Town Hill. In this case, it's just out of New London. It's still in New London, but it was up on a hill. I used to do a lot of walking because I wasn't driving at that time. And the date on this is May 28, 1962. And it was one speaker, $1.20, 65-cent tax, $1. No, wait a minute. Yeah, $1.20, and the tax 65 cents. That's funny. Oh no, tax 5 cents. Oh, wait, 125. Tax 5 cents. That's when those are the good old days. State of Connecticut. Motor vehicles. Motor vehicle operator's license. Fee $6.50. Now it's I don't know, $100. At the time I lived on 21 Reed Street in New London, the basement apartment. That was the apartment my dad died in. Well, my dad didn't die in the apartment, but he was very, very ill, and that was the year, that was the place we went to the hospital, and then he was gone. This here was New London, November 1, 1965. Signature of operator, street and number, 21 Reed Street, city or town, New London, Connecticut. So, it was stamped November 16th, 1965. Yep. I don't know if I'm still recording. DeMambro Radio Supply Incorporated. Wholesale distributors, electronic equipment, sound systems. Telephone, Gibson 2-0333, 334 Broad Street, New London, Connecticut. What did I buy? One Krylon 1326A, no idea what it is, it was 65 cents. One Quam, that's a speaker, 3A 5T or 15T, was $3.45. It was a total, with the tax was 14 cents, $4.24. And that was June 18th, 1962. I was very active back in those days, but I was still learning. Of course, I'm still learning to this day, but my mind just don't absorb things anymore. Let's see what we got here. All right. Taxpayer's copy, do not mail. October 19th, 1963, taxpayer's copy, sales and use tax. Okay, at the time, for a very short while, maybe about a year, I was into this television repair thing, but it wasn't profitable at all because I wasn't driving, and I had a tax number and everything. It was a real pain because if you want to buy a tube, you didn't pay the tax on it because you paid it at the end of a quarter or whatever it was, I don't know. But I had to itemize it. So here, gross receipts, $15. Purchases subject to tax, $15. Total, $15. Balance subject to tax, $15. So, amount of tax due, 53 cents. Total amount tax due, 53 cents. This is what I mean. But I didn't have very much equipment either. I had a Hickok 505 oscilloscope that I got from a TV man. And a cheap emission Lafayette tube tester with those little push buttons, a little dinky thing, and a few meters, and I think a VTVM. Let's see what we got here. Okay, Reaction Research Laboratories of America. You've seen videos on Nate Carver. I have a video on him. Nate Carver, proprietor, and he lived in Groton, and I bought something from him at the time. What date is this? We don't have a date on this. Received $10 on account, total of $15 for purchase of a Stromberg Carlson radio, number 925. And I owed him $5, so the total price was $15. Sentimental. Like to look back. That is why I didn't throw these things out. New London Day advertising. Advertising the New London Day paper for my TV radio service, and it didn't cost all that much back then. It was only a few dollars. I got a lot of calls too far out. It was up to my dad to take me, and he wasn't feeling too good back then. This is about 6 months before he died, I guess, so, And I don't know why I started it. I had 1,000 business cards made up. I think I still got one up here somewhere. I'm going to go check and see if this thing is still recording. I'll be talking to myself otherwise. I'll have to edit that out if I don't forget. All right, it's still recording. Let's see what we got here. These are things that I did not go through with you, except for the Lafayette things I did. Now, what the heck is this? Marty's New and Used Furniture, 40 Main Street, New London, Connecticut. Of course, that building, that redevelopment took all that down back then. But this was in 11/25/1967. And I think I know what this is. This was a record cabinet where I kept my stereo on the first shelf, and below that I had 2 doors. It was an unfinished pine cabinet that I stained and varnished. And we used that on 21 Reed Street when we lived there. And at the time that was $13.48, 47-cent tax, $13.95. I don't know how I got it home. I think I had to put it together. I don't remember But you remember, I had a '63 Ford Galaxy, and that had a big trunk, so I could have carried it home in that. I don't know. But in 1967, that was the year I bought my '63 Ford Galaxy for $250 because it was in a wreck and the front bumper was gone and the grill was gone. It was all bent up, the bumper, and I replaced all that throughout the years. Just to look back, I like looking back on the past. I'm sorry. It cheers me up. Television service call repair ticket. July 1st, 1962. That's what I was doing television repair. Black and white. Okay, I'm not going to mention the person's name. There could be relatives still living. Silvertone. Customer complaint. Set kept shutting off on the red button reset. I replaced the high voltage socket. $1.25 for the socket. I replaced the potentiometer, 300 ohm, 65 cents for the potentiometer. I replaced one fuse, 10 cents. One tube used, because I always specify if I didn't have a new one or didn't want a new one, the customer was offered a good used tube. It was $1. Don't know what the tube was. I think it might have been a 1B3. It was in the high voltage gauge, so it probably was a 1B3. Paid in full. Installed high voltage socket and the pot. Put in another circuit breaker. Okay. Labor was $5.60. Total parts $3. Pickup and delivery or service call $3. That's what Nate Carver used to charge to go make a house call, $3. Those were the days, man. That's why he never got anywhere financially, because he didn't charge enough. Tax was 21 cents. And the total is $11.81. Another Lafayette purchase. Lafayette Radio 111 Jericho Turnpike, Soyasset, Long Island. Everything was money order. October 29th, 1963. And it was Lafayette HE-19 on page 277. They want you to put the page number down of the Lafayette catalog that you ordered it from. Quantity 1, Lafayette telescopic Citizens Band with antenna, $3.95. That was for the HE-29B walkie-talkie. That's my first walkie-talkie. That's the year I got into CB, the very first time. And back then, of course, you needed a license. Even with the walkie-talkie 100 milliwatts, you needed a license. It wouldn't cost anything, but you needed a license. What do we got here? This is a partial order, and that's I think that's part of the same order. Okay. This video is turning out to be a little long, but that's all right. I don't want to stay out here too long because my wife's going to need me, I think. Okay, this one is Lafayette Radio Electronics, P.O. Box 88, Syosset, Long Island. So this one you sent to a post office box instead. But it's also 111 Jericho Turnpike in Syosset, Long Island. This was April 15th, 1963. This was an HE29BL, another antenna for an HE29B walkie-talkie. I guess pulling them up up and down, they had to be replaced. You know, eventually, me and a few other guys converted over, putting SO239 on the top. It was an aluminum case on the walkie-talkie. SO239 socket on the back, and put a PL259 type of whip that would just plug in there, so we didn't have to keep doing that. We also increased the modulation by putting a matching transformer in the walkie-talkie because the speaker was 8 ohms or whatever, them little transistor radio speakers. The speaker in the walkie-talkie was served as a microphone as well as a speaker. So there was an impedance mismatch, 8 ohm speaker going into a base of a transistor audio amplifier in the walkie-talkie. Too low of an impedance, so we put a 500 ohm center tap transistor radio output transformer wired in reverse so that the secondary, the low impedance side, would go to the speaker. And the 500 ohm center tap, you didn't use a center tap, you used two outer legs of the wiring to go into the base of the transistor, and you increase the modulation on the walkie-talkie that way. I remember that distinctly because we did that. Those are the days I could see what I'm doing. Okay. Another Lafayette. Very active back then. RK152 transistor tape recorder. I think that's, for some reason, as I vaguely remember, I think I had trouble with it, and instead of back, they gave me another one. So that's probably what the extra paper's on. All right. Okay. Now, I was in correspondence with Doc and Chicky Williams of the WWVA Jamboree for several years. Doc Williams, P.O. Box 902, Wheeling, West Virginia. Doc passed on, and so did Chicky years and years ago. I can't read the date on it because the postage stamp went over the top. Postal cancel order is over the top of 19. Okay, this is Pittsburgh, PA. It's Wheeling, but it got to Pittsburgh, PA. 1991. This was just some questions, I think. Not sure. Yeah. A message from Doc Williams. He's another one that's kind of hard to the enclosures are currently up to date on all our records. Okay, I was just asking about the records that he had available. That's probably... And this is Cousin Johnny. You heard me talk about him. Some correspondence with Cousin Johnny. He wrote so small. He was in his 90s. He died at a good age, about 97, I think, before he died. 2004, I guess he was telling me about some of the shows that were going to be coming up or something. I'm not sure. Let's find out. Yeah. Yeah, it is. Unfortunately, Cool 101 is no longer there. They played the oldies, 50s music and 60s. Now it's just junk. WNLC don't play any country music, and WCTY is a pop music station, not country. But anyways, this is from Cousin Johnny, and you can see the tiny, tiny, tiny writing he had. For a guy that's in his 90s, he wrote so small that you can get a whole paragraph on the edge of a cassette. That's how small he wrote. I can't even read his writing. It's too small. So I won't even try. I don't know. I was asking about a show or something coming up. But the problem is, I can't read his writing. Just released. Oh, this was a new album by Doc Williams and Chicky Williams, legendary country music entertainers, longtime members of the Jamboree USA. And this was just sending me some stuff to... annual newsletter. And a whole bunch of warm greetings. Doc Williams. I can't read that, but that's from Doc Williams himself. As I was a big fan of Doc and Chicky Williams. One of the first country music entertainers that I started listening to when I was a dishwasher in the early 60s at the hygienic restaurant. I've told you about that many times. And I used to work from 10 at night to 7 in the morning. So Saturday night, I'd have the transistor radio going with the Jamboree going and Lee Moore picking his guitar. And the Doc Williams would be on there and be selling his records, and so would Lee Moore on the radio advertising them. And this is a letter from Lee Moore. Coffee drinking Nighthawk, Lee Moore. and all the records that he has at the time. And it was from Lemoore, Wynotskill, New York. That's upstate New York, I believe. So he's got all his records listed here and what he has and what you can order from him. And tape number 3, all in Lee's handwriting. I've had the pleasure of talking to him on the phone before he died back in the 90s. At the time, I was trying to learn how to play the guitar. It's about 1995, I believe. And about the time he performed at the old Mystic Baptist Church, which I've got a video on up there. So we've got a lot of his I've got every record that he ever made. Well, I did have. Now it's all on tape. I've had over 945 RPMs records. And I sold them to some guy that's supposed to be playing country music. I don't know where he's out of, Massachusetts or something. I've never heard anything being played. There's another one with Lemoore. Basically the same thing. A card from Tommy. Not sure what year. My favorite father, I like my father because he takes me to yard sales and to the radio station. Buys me stuff at stores, takes me to Ed's Kitchen, not anymore, takes me to the go-kart place. Love my favorite dad. Yeah, that was probably in the 90s, I would say. Mr. Roly Big Belly Billy. That's from my cousin Rose. And she was living in Florida. Yeah, I'm trying to think. She would drop me a letter once in a while. That was before phone calls became affordable. Let's say, wait a minute, this is again January 7th, 1995. So we were living here. Yeah, she was a big joker, I'll tell you. She was a year younger than me. I used to play all kinds of tricks on her. The noisemakers and stuff like that. I played them in the house. This was my cousin Wayne that I showed you that picture with that kid's drawing on it. He died at age 57 of stomach cancer. Back in 2002. So that was the obituary. Don't remember what newspaper that was, though. Oh, the New Haven Register. Yeah, because they lived out in West Haven. So that's what that is. Another one from Doc Williams. I'm not going to go through all that because it's basically the same thing. Another Lafayette. Lafayette TR117, 20-watt universal hi-fi output transformer, $8.95. 1F-703, another telescopic antenna. This one's $1.95 for the HE29B walkie-talkie. Boy, I went through a lot of telescopic antennas. They used to break off. You know, you close it and you open it. You close it and you open it, you know. At that time, it's COD. Cash on delivery. Total price, $10.90, counting the COD charge. Those are the days. Everything's by mail order from the Lafayette catalog. My my 2-meter ham license, which is I let expire because they want $35 now, and it's not worth being on it. When I first got it, it was in the 90s. This is a renewal. As I got my first one is at the license is somewhere in the shop here. The first one was in the 90s. This was in 2002. No, I don't know. I'm going to have to knock off very quickly here. I think we're going to end it. Yeah, this is it anyways. The rest is... One more. ABC TV and radio, 409 Bank Street, New London. That was ABC TV, Bill Kirby. I bought an oscilloscope from him. Had to be in 1962. One used scope, but don't say what kind of scope, and it don't say what year, but I estimate 62 or 63. ABC television and radio. It was on Bank Street, but it was like just around the corner from where I lived on Reed Street, which is off of Bank Street back then. So, that's it. All right. Enough. Okay, I think I've talked long enough on this, or reminisced quite a bit there, and there's going to be very much coming from me these days on videos. I might throw a video out here once in a while if I get in the mood, but as far as doing any work, I don't really know when and if I'm going to be doing any more. I don't know. A lot of times I like to come out here and work a little bit, but I'm just not in the mood, you know, and I find myself on the computer a lot watching videos. I get sleepy and I'll lay down and take a little nap, and I'm doing an awful lot of laying around lately, and that don't sit well with me either. So it's not good physically to be constantly laying around, but that's basically what I do. I've always taken little naps, but I'm doing it a lot more now. And I usually do that when it's hot and humid, you know, or it's bad weather or snow or whatever, and I just stay in and hibernate. But there's things I could do, but don't feel like it. And when I need to do something on the shed, I get a little ambitious and do it. However, I just don't have the stamina to do any substantial work for any long period of time. All right, I'm going to let you go. I want to thank you for listening to me. I hope I didn't bore you too much. Thank you very much for watching. Take care, everybody.